Okay.
Yes.
Your question.
My name is Subi Kerr.
You need to push the button on the top.
Yep. This one. This. Yeah, it's pushing. It's okay now? Yes, hello. I am Subi Kerr, QP National Representative for Ontario. My question is for Rick. Hi, Rick. In your presentation, you mentioned that when you worked with the banks and the law firms, they were the most difficult ones to deal with, and you said also that they crave the action of reaction. Can you please tell us, perhaps in a story form, of an example of how you managed to get them on your side and to think from your perspective, please?
I don't recall saying the action of reaction. Perhaps I said the action of inaction.
The action of inaction, yes, sorry. Okay, thanks.
So yes, and it starts... Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm on.
No, it fell off. Yeah.
Sorry. It starts with being the caring observer. And so what that means in practical terms, if I'm told that we're going to be working with a group of 150 people, I probably need to meet 15 or 20 of those 150 people in person, one-on-one, before we can begin to talk about change. I heard a wise person once call it the slinky effect. Some of you might be familiar with the slinky effect. It's the notion that if you have just the one little chunk of the slinky in your hand and pull it, then the rest of the slinky will come along. And I can certainly tell you that that's been my experience. But you treat that little portion of the group with tremendous respect, and you go out and you listen to them, and you just ask them to tell you their stories. And in that time, and it ties back to this notion of tying what you want to do with what's going on in the political environment. As you are listening to their stories, one of the things you're listening for is where's the fit? Where's the fit between their priorities and the work that you want to achieve? And then once you have found the fit between their priorities and the work you want to achieve, instead of going into them and saying, we're here from head office and we're here to help, instead you go in and say, I understand that in this group that your number one priority is this. How would it be if I were to offer you a tool that would help you do that thing you want to do? And wonder of wonders, you get tremendous support. And also, you hear things like people saying, I've been wanting to work on this for years. But it's only when we learn to speak their language and show them the fit between the corporate objective and the priorities of their unit that we get people's attention.
Anybody want to add anything? Okay, we'll go on to your question.
Hi, my question is for Judy and possibly John. My name is Carol Ann Fournier, and I'm the executive director of the Mid-North Network. My question is this: in Ontario, literacy services are going to be undergoing a transformation and a modernization through the Employment Ontario services. And over the next few months, a lot of the government is going to be telling us what the literacy system is going to look like at a systemic level. And I'm wondering how we can influence what that new system is going to look like, considering that we are all agents of change. How could we influence what that new system will look like, rather than have the government tell us what it's going to look like? What can we do to have a voice and make sure that we have some say in what that will look like?
They haven't asked you at all?
Well, there is a consultation process that's being planned, so they are going to be asking.
So I would say, I mean, I can't come up with a strategy. So one thing is, this is a great place to strategize around that question for people here to talk about how are we going to present, because you have an ability to coordinate at least around Ontario and have people brainstorming in the same room. So I think that would be one thing. The second thing is, as I said earlier, I think it's very important. I'll tell you a story. When I was president of NAC, the Supreme Court struck down the rape law. And they struck it down because, for technical reasons about defending the defendant. But the government at the time, and Kim Campbell was the Minister of Justice, wanted to bring in a rape law really fast. And it was the analysis of women who worked in the field, rape crisis, that what was most necessary to strengthen the rape law was a definition of consent. Okay? So we went to the bureaucrats and said, we need a definition of consent if you want our support for the law. And the bureaucrats said, we agree with you, this is what we need, but we can't do it now. We have to do it, we'll do it, but we got to get in a bill really fast. The minister wants to bring in a bill really fast. And we insisted, we met with the minister. It was the first time in all my years of advocacy that the minister changed her mind on the spot and agreed that if we could come up with language, that if our lawyers could come up with language, then they could do it. And I thought, wow, this is amazing, I was the president of NAC. But there were women there from rape crisis centers said, no, we're not willing to do that. We want to have a consultation among our groups to find out how to define consent, because we haven't started working on that yet. Not let the lawyers do it, right? And I was like apoplectic, that we've actually got something. We got a gain, and here they're saying, no, we're not willing to accept it. Well, the minister was so desperate on this that she actually agreed to the consultation, and we got out of that not only a new rape law, which actually was a pretty strong rape law, but we also got consultations on violence against women with grassroots groups every year for the next 10 years. And that was something I never expected to get, okay? So the answer is that to me, to have an influence, you have to organize in your community around what you want, and to find out from people who have taken your service, who are taking your service, what they need, what's their best. So I would say that would be the strongest way to have an influence, is to have open sessions where you're, what do you call that? Creative listen, what do you call it? Caring listening.
The caring observer.
Caring observer, I like that. Caring, where you're listening to the people who have used your services and who have, as to how it can be improved, so that you're listening to the clients, not just thinking how you think it can be improved from your perspective, which is important too, I'm not saying it's not, but listening to the people who are using the services. And then when you go to government, you're going with those stories and hopefully with those people. And they can't divide and rule, which is what governments always like to do, right? So that would be my suggestion from knowing very little about what the actual modernization might look like.
Yeah, there is a verb to consult, and in the Devil's Dictionary that's defined as to obtain a favorable opinion of a course already decided. And government is very good at two things, and one is called stakeholder management as opposed to stakeholder partnership, and the other is that they do a lot of decision-based evidence making, which is the opposite.
Bravo.
So I would not wait to be invited in. Invite them out. In other words, you stage your event on your terms and ask them to come to that event. It's very difficult for government to come out to your event and then manage you. You don't want to manage them, you want to partner with them, you want to be an equal partner. I think that's the best you can do. They will not, generally speaking, want that. If they have a course that's already decided and they just want your okay to it, then you're going to get managed. And you just have to ensure that you never allow yourself to be managed. If you're an ex-civil servant, you just see it coming from about 100 feet. So it's just one of those things. So stage your own event, invite them to it, don't wait for them, and also don't wait to be not just invited, but when you say, gee, Minister, we want to come in and see you, don't, I would say not to waste your time with that. It's just entirely do your own event and have them out to it. And then you change the power relationship just in doing that itself.
Thank you very much. And since I don't see anyone at either of the microphones, oh, I'm sorry. That's okay.
What's wrong with that, Mike?
I guess I should have worn red today instead of black. I just faded in here. My question is sort of more about collaboration. As you mentioned, there are 400 plus people here, all of whom are already in some process of being an agent of change. Many of us work directly with individuals, and maybe that's how we think of our arena for change. But I think what we've seen over the last year or so, and certainly what we're looking at with the possible reversion to status quo funding as of April 1, is that there's a need now to be agents of change, not just at the individual level, working with adult learners, but with politicians across a community. And so for agencies like mine, I work for a regional literacy network, it's kind of given us a whole new way of thinking about what we do. So how do you, my question is, do you have any strategies, do you have any recommendations for organizations that are primarily involved in direct service delivery, but now need to be playing a role that is more about trying to affect change in these much larger, broader arenas? So any information or strategies that you could share would be wonderful.
I will encourage you to be quick because we're running out of time.
Okay, well, that's a really important question. Like, we've experienced this both ways in the women's movement. And one of the problems with an organization that's a service provider in being an advocate is that if they have to get into a fight, then they feel threatened because the government's funding them. They have to fight the government. So a good way around that is to do your lobbying or your advocacy through a group like this, right? A coalition, a network, right? Through community networks, of which you are one part, not the only part. So, and that also helps you to build support in your community among all the different organizations that are concerned about literacy, but also individuals that are concerned about literacy. Reach out to immigrant communities, reach out, I'm sure you're doing this already, but if you do it on the service level, do it on the advocacy level too. So you have, like we do this, when I was at Ryerson, we would do this with people in agencies who wanted to be change agents, and we would create a network of those people who wanted to make changes so they could support each other in helping. So that would be I mean, I understand what you're asking about changing individually to see, but it sounds like you're already in the process of doing that. But I'd say, like, to protect your agency, because eventually there may be a threat there, you do it through networks or through coalitions. I think that would be my best advice.
Okay, I am afraid I am under orders to cut things off now. You have other sessions to attend and other things to do. So thank you very much. You've been a great, engaged audience, and good luck for the next few days.